Hey everybody, and welcome to the Center Lane, the political debate for a silent majority. My name's John. I really thank you for checking in. What we're going to talk about today is there room for a third candidate somewhere, or a center lane guy that we can vote for actually? Let's just talk about who we've got, right? We've got two candidates, and it's pretty much etched in stone, unless something happens, which could definitely, given the age of these two combatants, something could definitely happen, right? All right, first up, we've got Trump. Today, New York Times poll is up by 37 points. That's a big hill to climb. His closest competitor at this time is, as we know, my favorite guy there, right? Ron DeSantis. He is not faring well, and, just this week alone, two more huge blunders, I think, on his part. Why he keeps stepping in it, he steps in it. He finds a way. First off, the debacle about the slavery comments. Hey, it was poorly worded. All you had to say was, you know what? That comment about slavery being a positive side of slavery was a bad one, and I'm going to make sure they fix that. That story would go away. But what does he do? He doubles down on it. That's what he does. He's got very thin skin. And of course, the Bud Light fiasco. He's trying to sue Bud Light for the stock going down in price. But hey, come to find out, one of the reasons the stock come down in price is because you were beating the drum to boycott Bud Light. If you're one of the causes as a governor of a state and beating the drum saying, don't buy Bud Light, their stock's going to go down, Ron. Don't do that, shut up. Can't do it. So anyways, looks like it's going to be Trump unless things change, and they certainly could, but he's awfully strong in the Republican side. And then, of course, the Democrats, we've got Joe Biden. I think he's done a halfway decent job, but he is going to be struggling on a lot of different fronts as well, just because, well, first off, I think he's just too old, and it's a big concern seeing somebody 80. He'll be 82 come election day. That's crazy. That means 86 when he's done. We're already seeing some problems with the aging of some of these other people, high-profile people in our government. Mitch McConnell this week, couldn't remember where he was. Dianne Feinstein hasn't known where she's been for the past year, probably. And then, of course, Biden, who's, I think, is still pretty sharp. I mean, I know people like to nitpick on him. He seems fairly sharp, but he's definitely lost a step, and that's to be expected. It's a big job to be president of the United States. Doesn't mean he's not, doesn't have capabilities that could definitely, lean into that job. But, as you get older, I'm getting older. I think all of us know as you get a little bit older, you start to see a difference. And, in his state and where he's at right now, that's a pretty big deal. So at the end of the day, what do we have here? We've got kind of two terrible candidates, really. I mean, we do. It's sad to say that, but that's the best we can do is these two guys to vote for. So that brings me to, a topic of today. It's like, is there another candidate that A, may emerge, or B, could run as a third candidate? Third candidate parties are tough. I think you guys are a little bit older, like myself, can remember some people. Ross Perot did pretty good, in the early 90s. John Anderson in the 80s ran an independent. And they got, I think Perot and Anderson both got close to 20%. But the problem is 20% A is not enough, and B, what would that do to maybe put us in a situation with one of these other two guys who you don't want to win, make it easier for them to win? So I was thinking that, I know that they're talking about the no labels candidacy. Perhaps that's that third party. You probably heard something about that. And they were throwing names around like Joe Manchin from the Democratic side and Larry Hogan from the Republican side. I think Manchin's just playing this because he has a lot of... since he's kind of a swing vote anyways, he's kind of a wild card for the Democrats as far as the Senate votes go. This gives him one more leg of power, and people have, watch out because we don't want to get Joe upset because he might run as a third party. He runs a third party candidate, probably going to give it to Trump. He's probably going to pull a lot of Biden's votes away. Hogan, on the other side, Larry Hogan, he's a little more interesting because he doesn't want to run on the no labels deal because he's very anti-Trump. And he's a pretty good middle of the road. If you don't know, he was the governor of Maryland, I believe, and he won as a Republican in a very Democratic state. and had a 70+% approval ratings, and he's very middle of the road. He is another one of these guys who I would definitely consider if he was to run, because he's a center lane guy. He is. He would not run if Trump was the nominee, because he would be afraid that Trump would get in. I'm pretty sure that that's how he feels. Now, if Trump's not the nominee, for whatever reason, whether he's in jail or, if he has a health issue, or I think that's about the only two ways you're going to catch that guy. And it's going to be hard to him to falter that lead. It's his to lose, the nomination right now. So I would think that probably if it was another candidate that was to emerge from the Republican side, that that Hogan, I'm sorry, had an issue with or whatever, he would probably maybe throw his hat in the ring and go for it. As far as late entries, maybe for Republicans too, you hear a lot about Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, or is it Virginia? Yes, and he, has a lot of support from the guys, a lot of donors, a lot of big donors to say, man, we need you to get in there and run. But I think he's smart to stay out for right now, just because of Trump's strength, and he has future plans, and he could emerge really strong in 28. And I think a lot of these guys got to start thinking about 28 really, because 24 is kind of locked up between our older gentlemen who are running right now, and that's a shame. But that's the reality. It is what it is. Another one, a person that I find really interesting lately, I've been hearing his name thrown around a lot. If you're not familiar with him, it's a Republican congressman from Minnesota named Dean Phillips. He's a very, Bloomberg type candidate. I like Bloomberg, right? Fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. I think that's where a lot of people kind of sit, where they even know it about themselves or not. A lot of people are pretty more liberal than they think on the social end of things, for sure, just because, we live amongst each other, and we have friends that are gay or whatever the case may be. You're more liberal than you think you are. I think most of you people, you just don't know it. But fiscally conservative is something I think it appeals to a lot of people on both parties in a lot of ways. I like to think the majority, right? So he's an interesting candidate. Actually, it's kind of a little side note. His grandmother was Dear Abby, if anybody cares about that. But he's a businessman. He's an entrepreneur. He runs, their family has a distilling company, kind of spirits and alcohol, whatever, liquor company, which he ran as CEO. He has a couple of restaurants now, coffee chains in Minnesota, and he's very moderate. He's not going to take us too far on either side, which I find that interesting. I'm trying to learn more about the guy, but that's somebody I say kind of a sleeper candidate that might come out of the woodwork. Now, he would not want to kneecap Biden if Biden's, looks like he can win it. But if Biden's health goes really down, or his approval ratings go to, some ridiculous sub amount, like Jimmy Carter's did back in 1980, then he might jump in. So that's a name to remember, It's Congressman Dean Phillips. Keep an eye on him. Cornel West, the professor, he is very, very liberal. He's somebody that might want to jump in there, but I think that, again, he's just going to hurt Biden and help Trump. So, depending on where you stand on that, the pick between the lesser of two evils, I hate to put it that way, it's kind of sad, but that's something he would possibly could cause a problem for. So let's see any other late entries I could think of. Of course, here's the problem too with the Biden issue, if I can just jump back on that for a second. If he was to falter, there is a lot of Democrats who are very ambitious and waiting in the wings. So a guy like a Dean Phillips, could he really emerge from all that? That'd be really tough, because you got Gavin Newsom that wants to be our president over there in California. I don't remember how you feel about him. You got Mayor Pete that would like to come up, Amy Klobuchar. You always know that frickin' Elizabeth Warren's going to want to throw her name in the hat, because she really thinks that she's the one. But I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of positive things to say about her, I guess. I don't think that she's the one. I think she knows a lot about banking. I give her that. But as being to be the president, no. Amy Klobuchar, I like her. She's pretty good. Yeah, Tammy Duckworth, another good one. I think it's time for a woman president, quite frankly. But we need to find, again, if we're going to talk about the center lane, people that, share what I think the majority of us values share. So I think like an Amy Klobuchar or Tammy Duckworth, yeah, they're in that moderate, majority area, I would say for sure. On the Republican side, of course, we're just going to have to see what happens because, would a Chris Christie emerge or something if something terrible has happened to Trump, i.e., he's got really sick or, God forbid he could die. It's possible. Who in the center lane could emerge from the Republican side? A little bit more dicey. We can get Larry Hogan in there, great. Chris Christie, maybe. I'm just picking. There's a couple other guys out there that I could, I would consider somebody in that middle lane that could potentially do well for us. I don't know much about the guy. Was it William Hurd? I don't know much about him. They say he's a center lane guy, but he's kind of on the outskirts as far as being a serious candidate. So I don't know what his whole story is. So kind of in conclusion, what we got the two old guys, right? What do we want? We want a better choice. I mean, still we got to vote, you got to vote. And even it's tough, and you got to go. And if it's Biden's the guy you think is more center, which I would say out of between Trump and Biden, I'd definitely go Biden personally. But that's my own choice. But if you were to look at that objectively and who's out there, what would happen if something does change, which it certainly could. We're 16 months out from voting for the next president. Well, that's a long time. A lot of things can happen in 16 months. So I just, it's wait and see. We'll sit back, but keep your eyes open and don't take your eye off the ball and hold these guys accountable. You got to do that. And whether it's the president, governors, senators, we got to hold them accountable. All right. Thank you very much for listening, and I will be back soon. Thanks. Have a great day.